What's up, guys? I am Ashley Gavin, and I am your father.
I'm Elena Joy. I am mommy.
And I'm Mac Injami, your hot teenage brother.
Baby. Mac is baby.
We are your chosen family, because you don't have a gay family, and you need a gay family.
Every week, we bring a topic to the family dinner table, from gender dysphoria to monogamy to how to figure out if someone is into you.
Listen to Chosen Family every Wednesday on your favorite podcast app, or watch full episodes on YouTube to get the full family experience. Chosen Family is a part of the Forever Dog Podcast Network.
Just between us.
If you're looking for a new podcast, might I recommend our podcast?
Hi, I'm Gabe Dunn.
And I'm Allison Raskin. We have a weekly show called Just Between Us, where we explore every kind of topic out there.
From mental health to sexuality to animal behavior to science.
We love to interview fascinating people about their various expertise. We also answer listener questions and play a very silly game called Hypotheticals.
You're not going to want to miss it. It's unhinged.
And if you don't want to trust our word for it because it's our show, you should know that the iHeart Podcast Awards nominated us for Best Ensemble for 2023.
That means that we are good at our jobs.
Or we have good chemistry.
Ooh.
So check out Just Between Us every Wednesday.
Guys, this is Succession. This is HBO. If you don't want to hear me talking about Logan Roy, talking about then don't listen to this. There are bad language words in this show. Hello, and welcome to an unbelievably special episode of Slate Money Succession. I am Felix Salmon of Axios. I'm here with Emily Peck of Axios.
Hi.
I'm here with Elizabeth Spiers of New York Times and many other places, and probably some political campaign that's trying to do deals in dark rooms or dark penthouses.
Hello.
And we are here with the inimitable, unique, amazing WGA member, Taffy Brodesser-Akner.
Hello.
And Taffy, because it's never enough to just be Taffy, apparently. You have brought two special guests.
It is Shari Berman and Bob Pulcini, who I have the privilege of knowing from being the director of the majority of episodes of Fleischman is in Trouble, but also from sitting in their director's chairs and saying, this is not how we do it on Succession. Things like, on Succession, we got 2 helicopters and instead of this tricycle. And they are the directors of the episode we all just saw.
So congrats, Bob and Shari, on episode 7. But can you just bring us up to speed? Because I'm pretty sure that almost no one understands how this works. Like, why does a TV show like Succession have so many directors? You only directed this one episode of this season, right?
Of this season, yeah. This is our 3rd episode.
So explain why Succession. I mean, it must have like dozens of directors at this point.
Well, Succession, every episode of Succession is almost like a feature. I mean, as I've told Taffy many times, the scripts are incredibly long, and part of the process of Succession is whittling down a very long script in the editing process. So you do a lot of shooting. There's a lot of last minute writing. You know, there's a lot of changes, so you have to really be on your feet. So it wouldn't make sense to have just 2 directors on a season the way they schedule it and the needs for each episode.
So okay, so now you've just blown my mind here, Shari. Can you like expound on this? When we see an episode, that is not what was in the script. There was a lot more in the script that you end up cutting out. There was a whole bunch of random extra improvised or extra stuff that you wound up adding in at the last minute. And the idea that Succession is a completely sort of writer-driven show that is completely focused on fealty to the genius writing is maybe not true?
No, it is completely writer driven. It's so writer driven that they keep writing and never stop. So basically, their Succession, Jesse and the Succession writing room, which the writers, every single one of them are brilliant. It's just the most amazing writers. They're often on set. Will write way bigger scope for 60 minutes, or an hour or whatever. And then they are okay with cutting it down and figuring out the parameters to make that 60 minutes in the editing room. It is, so there are amazing scenes that do get cut, amazing scenes, like things that could be your favorite scene, but for whatever reason, it doesn't serve the story, or it just lags there, or they have to kill their babies.
And so this explains a lot of the sort of random jumps and sort of holes that we have to fill in, or partly explains that the way that we just suddenly 1 minute Shiv and Mattson are meeting on a private jet, who knows where, and you're like, how does this fit? What is going on? And presumably, maybe someone wrote something that might have explained that, but that just got cut.
They're not big on explaining. That's not like, if it ever feels like explaining, it gets cut out. That's not what they want the experience to be. It's intentional, and I think it's really effective.
So can I ask you a question about that? Like in this episode, very early on, they're meeting, the kids are meeting for breakfast at the Trump Hotel in Midtown, and Shiv is part of the crew that is trying to kill the deal. And I don't know about Elizabeth and Emily, but I was like, wait, when did that happen? And we're supposed to just kind of fill in some kind of imaginary history of, Shiv is now ostensibly on board with this.
Well, she's pretending.
Right.
She's keeping her alliance with Mattson close to the vest because she's, trying to play both sides and see which works out to her advantage.
Right.
She's a double agent because
they all are. That's one of the challenges of actually directing, is that people's intentions are so duplicitous that it's hard to keep up with it sometimes, even as a director, and I'm sure as an actor.
It is. Sometimes they're not quite 100% sure of how they're where they are exactly emotionally in their own in the relationships in the show. So it's interesting, and it's challenging, but it's always fascinating.
I mean, the one thing I do have to say is Jesse, if he's here, is on set, and if not Jesse, it will be like Tony, who's his kind of partner on this, or other writers. There's always somebody there, and the actors are very involved in asking these questions of the writers. I mean, we'll be there, but we can't answer the answers because we're not creating the characters. So there are a lot of sidebars even before we get to set to discuss, like, well, what are my intentions? Why am I doing this? Would I do this? And the actors have a lot of input.
There's a line that Logan had in the episode we did with Adrian Brody where he, Shiv is kind of saying, there has to be a line. And Logan says, there is no line. Everything is moving. Always get used to it. And that to me kind of became like, that's kind of the mantra for the whole show. It's like, don't ever settle or get used to anything because it's constantly shifting.
Yeah, whatever was true last episode isn't true this episode, except, presumably that Logan is dead.
I've heard the show described as a British farce. That there's a way you could look at the show as a British farce. And I think the farce element of it, but also this very tragic element, is these sort of rudderless children who are stuck in this purgatory. Like, I picture this is what purgatory is. Like, if we find out at the end they were dead the whole time, I will not be shocked, because they just like go from, they have no attention span. They like are seeking these oxytocin hits from new deals all the time, so that they can't even make it to the deal that they want. Like, they go from wanting a deal to not wanting a deal. To Shiv agreed to that, right? And then suddenly she turned on it because Madsen appeared to be offering her, even though he didn't. He appeared to her to be someone who would give her something that she hadn't had. But Felix, I want to tell you something about the way it all works, which is movies are a director's medium, where the director the actors would go to the director and say, what is going on here? Whereas TV is considered a writer's medium, which is why the arrangement in TV is just a little bit different, which is why writers are on set generally of a TV show in order to answer those questions. And Bob and Shari, who have done movies and who have done their own TV, are also now doing, they'll do an episode, but because they're writers, they are great on this process.
They overstep their bounds and answer questions that they shouldn't, right, Taffy?
I mean, no, they are actually wonderful.
We don't know what's going to happen after our episode, so...
Wait, what? Really?
Yeah, we don't know. I mean, I'm not sure they know sometimes, but, I don't know.
Are all the episodes shot in sequence?
The episodes go in sequence, yeah.
And the actors haven't read the full script for the season when they're shooting each episode?
No. In fact, it's really weird because... I'll tell you something that they do. We did it on Fleischman as well, which is once you're shooting, you do your table reads on your lunch break. And it's amazing to see actors come back from the lunch break, because the first time they'll see the script for the next episode is at the table read. And you'll see people like so flipped out by like what they just read. And you're like, okay, but we're shooting another episode now. You can worry about that later.
That's so funny. Was Logan like, I guess
well, I wasn't there I wasn't there when Logan, I think Jesse had a personal conversation with him. I wasn't there.
The actors get like paid per episode, right? Like they've got to know how much they're going to get paid, therefore how many episodes they're in.
They make a season deal. Like, if you don't have an actor in an episode, they like a main actor. This is a great question. They still get paid. Hence, if you leave someone out of an episode, the studio might remind you that you're still paying that actor.
But in this quote, Taffy, you mentioned this idea of farce, and I've said many times that Succession is one of those shows that's a tragedy when you watch it the first time and a comedy when you watch it the second time. But Shari, can you is there a difference when you're directing a comedy versus a tragedy? And do you just play this, Succession in particular, do you play it straight like a tragedy and just kind of let the comedy seep through? Or how does that work?
They are allergic. I mean, the whole Succession vibe is allergic to anything that is overtly comic. Right. They do not want to go try for humor. What they want is the humor to come from the tragedy and come from the true. I would say like the biggest rule is that things have to come from, there's tons of research and consultants, and there's a desire to make things as truthful, whether they're emotional arcs, whether there's the way things really work in business or the way the 1% live. Like our first day on shooting when we were on season 2, I remember them telling us, the 1% never wear winter coats because they're never outside. I mean, maybe when they're skiing, but they always go from the limo to wherever they're being dropped off. So they don't need winter coats. So our people will never wear winter
They
coats.
literally live in a bubble. Roman is out on a balcony in November in New York in shirt sleeves, and he doesn't seem to notice at all.
It's probably because he's got radiant heat or something on the balcony. I mean, but they do have consultants that like tell them things like that apparently are true. Like, so I would say we always play everything for truth, emotional truth, reality. There is no, I mean, if Jesse even smells, there are things Bob and I like.
One of my favorite conversations with Jesse on set was we were doing the scene where Tom throws the water bottles at Greg, and pelts him with a whole thing of water, which is about as broad as you can get, right? But we were doing a wide shot, and like Jesse and I were looking at the screen, and we were like, how many water bottles, this was like in the aftermath, how many water bottles is funny on the floor and how many is pushing the joke too far, because we don't want it to. So we were like literally like putting water bottles in the frame, and Jesse would be like, no, that's too broad, or pull 3 out. So then I'd pull 3 out and he'd be like, well, that's okay if you move that one to the corner of the frame. It's that kind of thing. So he has a very exquisite sense of like, the line between comedy and reality, I think.
I like the idea of hiring these consultants, like a rich person, to say, no, I never wear a winter coat. Is it a rich person who is the consultant? It
has to be. It's only
it isn't a wealth. The person's called a wealth consultant.
They clearly need a little extra money.
I know. I actually assume that they get paid very little money.
Yeah, they don't need to, because when you're in that world. But yeah, I mean, the very first scene of this episode is, Tom making breakfast after an all-night fuckfest with Shiv, and there's a butler, I guess, who's like actually making the breakfast for him, and you're like, okay, this is amazing.
And then he walks by another woman doing vacuuming.
But he carried it all the way through the apartment. That's the thing, which is that's the grand gesture. Yeah.
And somehow in between like the great sexual reconciliation with Shiv and breakfast, he'd managed to procure a scorpion, which you can do at like 7:00 in the morning when you're that rich. We need to have some ads, but we will be back to talk about that massive fight between Shiv and Tom. Slate Money is sponsored this week by Betterment, which is a place you can put your money that doesn't ask you to time the market or pick stocks, that just automates your investments, allows you to invest in a huge variety of companies, helps you put together a really sensible investing plan so that whether the markets are up or markets are down, you can stick to that plan. You can set up recurring deposits, you can take advantage of their tax-efficient tools, because no matter what's going on in the market, you can be invested with Betterment. Sign up and get started in just a few minutes at betterment.com. That's betterment.com. Investing involves risk of loss, performance not guaranteed. That is the sound of another sale on Shopify, the moment another business dream becomes a reality. Shopify is the commerce platform revolutionizing millions of businesses around the world. They sell fine art, they sell succulents, they sell mugs, they sell consulting services. Whatever you are selling, Shopify gives you complete control over your business and your brand. You don't have to learn any new skills in design or code. They have 24/7 help. They have an extensive business course library. So now it is your turn to get serious about selling and try Shopify today. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/money, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/money to take your business to the next level today. Shopify.com/money.
Reboot your credit card with Apple Card, the credit card created by Apple. It gives you unlimited daily cash back that you can now choose to grow in a high-yield savings account at 4.15% annual percentage yield. That's more than 10 times higher than the national average savings rate. Apply for Apple Card now in the Wallet app on iPhone and start growing your daily cash with savings today. Apple Card subject to credit approval. Savings is available to Apple Card owners subject to eligibility requirements. Savings accounts provided by Goldman Sachs Bank, USA. Member FDIC. National average savings rate is from FDIC website. Terms apply.
Taffy, on this subject of verisimilitudinous marital relations, we need to talk about the heart of this show, which is the biggest and most honest fight that Tom and Shiv have ever had.
I mean, I said to these two last night, who, by the way, did that, now that I kind of know how the sausage is made, I just looked at it and was like, wow, those were overnight shoots. I don't know how many overnights that was, but that was a lot. And it also that I looked at, I mean, I've been waiting. My shame in Fleischman and in all of my writing is that I'm so on the nose, and Succession withholds in such a brilliant way that I'm not capable of. And I feel like it was all in the service of this episode where they just say it all to each other. And I was really blown away by it. I mean, these two, it's also shocking to me that they were reconciled. They seem to have a grief reconciliation. They just decide that they're back and she can just turn on a dime. And I feel like the thing he says to her, it's because you're broken. The thought I had when he said that was that Shiv is the best character on all of television in the history of television. I know people talk about Kendall. I know they talk about Roman. I know they talk about, a million other people, Jack Donaghy. I think Shiv Roy is the weirdest and most interesting character that's ever been on television. And that marriage, my God. And also, I'm obsessed with this pregnancy. I'm obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with Googling 20 weeks pregnant. Wouldn't someone having sex with, I understand that not everybody is showing in their first pregnancy at 20 weeks, but someone who's having sex with you.
Okay, but so it's not so. Okay, I've been thinking a lot about this, and I think Emily and I.
Emily's no, I was
first thing is she's not actually 20 weeks pregnant. She's just scheduling the 20-week exams. We don't know how far in advance they schedule that. But here's the other thing that really threw me for a loop was in the middle of that fight.
Are you? Wait. I'm sorry. But what the audience does not hear is Emily's emphatic nodding. You're
vigorous
saying
nodding.
Yeah, vigorous nodding.
You're saying that if you're 10 weeks pregnant, they will schedule your 20 week. 15. I think they're much.
No, she's maybe
weirder
12, 15.
than that.
20 is a very important appointment, and I do feel you schedule it a bit in advance. And
She
I feel
probably
like they
owns
are.
She probably
leaving
owns
it
an
ambiguous.
amniocentesis machine, by the way.
She
And it's
probably
not
has one in the
Tom
back
Cruise and Katie
room.
Holmes.
Right,
I don't know.
but
Leaving it
can I
ambiguous.
go back? This was thrown into the fight by the writers, presumably for a reason, right? Is that Shiv accuses Tom of basically, not seeing her dad for the last 6 months of his life. 6 months. Right? And presumably they haven't had sex over, since he betrayed her until now,
Wow.
which makes it suddenly much less likely that Tom is the dad.
That is some deep diving, Felix.
I'm not sure that when she said she didn't, I don't think everything in Succession happens in this really short period of time.
Especially this season.
This is 4 days, right?
Yes, everything happens.
Their
crazy day.
Is still above ground.
There still has not been a funeral.
Right.
Yes,
That's next
there still has
episode,
not
presumably, right?
No. It's
Wow.
even later.
What?
So The funeral's not yet, no. But the thing that happens is, I think when she says the last 6 months, I don't think she means that she didn't see, like, I think her and Tom, I think this all kind of happens shortly after the wedding in Italy. I don't think 6 months have passed. I think she means that he got in the way of her relationship with her father for the past 6 months. I don't know. I didn't write it, but that's my guess, is that like when we start this season, it's not much after the debacle of the...
It isn't, because it feels like they're saying months. And also in the premiere episode of the season, Tom is like, she lives somewhere else, and Tom
they've definitely
has a new nickname.
Up. Yeah, they've definitely broken up. I mean, it could have been...
I think for all the research on the show, timelines are not something that they care so much about. It's funny. It's like everything is exhaustive. All the research is just like, and then if you bring up a timeline, like we did one episode where, they go to an island all in a day, and it was going to be Capri. And I was like, well, are we shooting it day or night when they're back on the plane? Because this is like, they just don't, they don't care about that. They care more about, the specificity of the world. And that's where they, but at the same time, they know they want it to be entertaining, and they know it's a television show. And that's the balance.
That being said, I have no idea if the father is Tom or someone else. That is a good
Do you
question.
guys, read every episode up till yours, but
Yes.
Do you get the episodes after?
No.
No, we have no idea what's going to happen. So we can't answer your question about the pregnancy. We don't know.
I mean, if you'll remember, Felix, at the end of the previous season, Shiv comes home to Tom in Italy and says, let's make a baby. So, I mean,
Right.
One presumes that's what happened.
There's also the devastating line that Tom has where he says, I think you are maybe not a good person to have children, which sort of makes you think that, it's front of mind for him in some way, or maybe he knows.
But
It seemed to hit her pretty hard when he said that.
No, I'm pretty sure he doesn't know.
He's just saying the meanest thing you could say to a person.
Right? We had that that shorter scene with Kendall and Rava earlier in the episode, just showing how bad these kids are at being parents. I mean, they're just as bad as Logan, right?
Oh yeah. Although I love that scene because I love that Kendall thinks that he's saving the world for his children. He's like, you don't know what I'm doing. I'm breaking my back to save the world for them. Like
6 continents, okay? I'm like, 6.
Yeah. He has this grandiose view of his mom.
Like, I'm really big in Antarctica, okay? The penguins.
I love how he took his sunglasses off when she was like, it's not a legal thing, it's about the kid, and then he takes his sunglasses off, like as if to say, like, I'm with you now.
I'm present.
Yeah.
I
like
wasn't
that
before.
they're meeting in front of a Birch coffee. The way I would meet with my ex-husband about
that was a big issue. Because
that was Shari's choice.
That was me, because they wanted to do it. It was like a last minute thing, and it was easier to do it in either Kendall's apartment or Rava's apartment, and like, this was something I felt strongly about, and Jeremy felt strongly about, that they weren't on those terms where they would be meeting in each other's apartment, that it needed to be sort of neutral ground.
But Birch, like, outside at Birch?
It was like a quick walk by, and it wasn't like... It was Rava's territory and not Kendall's.
When you say it was a last minute thing, like the decision to shoot it at Birch Coffee was a last minute thing, or the whole scene was a last minute thing?
No, the scene came late. Yeah, both. The scene came late, which is why it was hard location wise, and the decision to shoot it at Birch was last minute as well.
So somewhere in the feverish writers' room, they're like, "Shit, we need to add a Rava scene in there." I mean, like, because we haven't seen her all season, and she's not a major character.
Yeah, I was really happy because I think they have a really interesting dynamic, and I was really excited to see to see that side of Kendall in the middle of all this. Yeah, I mean, I think they wanted, I don't know what caused them to write it, but it did appear later. It was not in like the first few drafts of the script.
Wow. So they're still writing while you're shooting?
We've sometimes scouted on rumor, like of a scene.
Guys, I hate to say it, but who never did that to you?
The writing never stops. I mean, they bring alts to set. So,
Wow.
They have the script and then they bring alts for
Alternative
lines.
scripts?
Alternative lines.
Alternative lines?
I liked in this episode because you had the Rava Kendall fight. Obviously, Shiv and Tom are going through it. And then you have Willa and Connor as like this example of
They're
a
the
great
happy married
supportive
couple.
marriage.
Yes, yeah.
Incredible.
Wife in quotes.
Yes. Is the bunker underground?
I know, no, it's our house above ground.
It's a house above.
It's important to know.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting what this party does to these relationships, and it's supposed to be this bonding. It's supposed to be this bonding evening it's supposed to be the, Tom and Shiv presenting themselves to the world again as a couple. It doesn't turn out that way, and.
I have a question. Felix, does anyone here know about some big party that happens the day before election night? Like,
so weird.
I know that like election day, all the journalists are fallow and eating at Odeon because we don't have anything to do. And then at night it gets nuts. Is there a party I'm not being invited to or that I don't know about?
There is a very important party, Taffy, and you're not invited. That's how it works.
Oh, I knew it.
Will Tracy, who's a really brilliant writer who wrote this episode, he had photos from, I don't know if it's the night before, the election, then that might just work with their timeline. They're very neat, tight timeline. But there are these parties, and I was shocked when I saw photos of like Rebecca Mercer, like right wing, like Trump supporting people with like MSN, with like Don, like it's at parties with their arms around each other, like having a cocktail before the election. Now, I don't know when, it might not be the night before. And we were given very specific types of people that would be there. And of journalists, it was like only the most, and Frank Rich is a producer on the show, so he's very knowledgeable about it. It was like the biggest podcaster in the political world who holds sway might be there. Along
you guys
with
would obviously be invited,
right?
And of course, the Wall Street Journal op-ed page, which so it does occur to me, and I have to say I didn't really think about this until right now, but it occurs to me that this episode, on some level, is a discourse. On some level, is just about, or one of the many things it's about, is the impossibility of marrying into the Roy family. That Tom can't do it. Rava's, broken up. Willa is called a wife in scare quotes by Roman. The kids have breakfast and just decide that everything that Marshall wants to do, they can just ignore. The closest thing that Roman has to a wife is Jerry, and she just like brutally tears him apart. And it shows how none of them have any ability to have any sort of support mechanism outside the family, and they certainly don't have any support system inside the family. They are all very alone.
I think that's very true. And, and how, how they all have different ways to benefit from the different outcomes of the presidential election. So none of them are even aligned that way. There's no line between the personal and power and politics in any of their relationships.
I thought that the other interesting thing about Kendall is like Kendall trying to come into his own and figure out who he is, only for Nate to say, "You're not Logan, I'm not Gil, that's a good thing," and how it kind of stuns him, almost this unforeseen possibility that he could actually make his own way, instead of what they've been saying in the episode since Logan died, which is, this is what Dad would do. What would Dad do? Oh, Dad would totally do this, right?
Or alternatively, as Mattson puts it, the failed sons will do what he did, but they will do it stupider.
They have so many great names for the brothers in this episode. The Fail Sons, Dumb and Dumber, the Dumpster Brothers, Team Kenro. It's just unending.
Yeah, it really is.
Though my favorite nickname is Mr. Mild, who is a one pepper menu option about Tom.
Which she says to his face.
Which she says to his face. Like, she really insults him. It always reminds me that the rabbi who married Claude and me, he gave us a few pieces of advice before marriage, and he said, the last thing he said was, those couples who kind of poke fun at each other behind each other's backs, don't do that. It's never a good look. And I always remember that. And then you see Shiv doing it in front of him. Like, instead of like rolling her eyes about Mr. Mild, she's like, here's Mr. Mild. Maybe you've met my husband, Mr. Mild, a one pepper menu option.
There was one episode where she was laughing hysterically with someone else, I can't remember who it was, about the way Tom wears a suit.
Well, yeah, that was episode 1 when they had dinner at Roman's house, right? And
that's right.
Yes. Oh my God.
It was so horrible. Brutal because he was so excluded from even the conversation, even though he was there. And it was just, it's, with Shiv, it's like, being Tom said that he sometimes speaks in a higher voice whenever Shiv is present because he's always afraid, of where she might go. He lives in fear of her. But so that's
until like he breaks on the terrace.
Exactly. And I think that's why that's so powerful because, it all, and they're both right? I mean, both of them are assessing each other correctly. And that's what's sad about it, I think, and what's very true about it.
And that they knew this about each other, and yet they, in love, they agreed that was fine. But also, like, that sort of brutal, like, you asked me to marry you at my lowest point. My father was, like, the kind of strange rewriting of history, which was actually an accurate rendering of history, is kind of brutal and shocking, and very much the stuff of like the people I know who have gotten divorced, when suddenly everything that was good could now be seen through this horrible prism of what was I thinking, right?
My dad was dying. What was I supposed to say? I didn't want to hurt your feelings.
Wow.
Brutal.
What?
Exactly how you're supposed to. That's how
he
they
says,
say.
what was I supposed to say? And Tom says no. And she's like, I didn't want to hurt your feelings.
I didn't want to hurt your feelings. Like, that's not
you
why
didn't think about my
yes.
feelings when you went off to fuck the phone book.
The phone book.
Yeah, well, there's also, the knives really come out around class, too, in that conversation. She describes his family as striving and parochial, and she says, you'll be fine, Shiv, no matter what happens. And so and you don't really, they sort of tiptoe around that in previous episodes, and then it just all comes out, that they're not even compatible on that basis. So.
Well, there's a lot of that in the show. I mean, there's, even with Mattson, he calls them new money. You've got to hold those bills up to the light with new money.
No, that wasn't Mattson. That's what Kendall says about Mattson.
That's what Kendall says about Mattson, yeah.
But it's also weirdly, like, the way that the three kids talk about Connor, right? That he's, like, a little bit arriviste and déclassé by Roy kid standards. And they, there's so many sort of... And this is actually very English. I think this probably does come from like the Jesse Armstrong side of things. It's this exquisite gradations of social class that you see in the show.
Yes. Always talking about Willa's mother filling her plate up with too much food at the
or the guest with the date with the big pot, the big purse,
the
capacious bag. Which I have to say, like, of all of the lines that in season 4 that I would have guessed would like enter popular culture as a meme, the ludicrously capacious bag would not have been on my list, but that's the one that everyone remembers and keeps on quoting. We're going to take a quick pause here for some more ads, but next up, we do need to talk about Matsson's gold lame jacket.
What's up, guys? I am Ashley Gavin, and I am your father.
I'm Elena Joy. I am mommy.
And I'm Mac Injami, your hot teenage brother.
Baby. Mac is baby.
We are your chosen family, because you don't have a gay family, and you need a gay family.
Every week, we bring a topic to the family dinner table, from gender dysphoria to monogamy to how to figure out if someone is into you.
Listen to Chosen Family every Wednesday on your favorite podcast app, or watch full episodes on YouTube to get the full family experience. Chosen Family is a part of the Forever Dog Podcast Network.
Just between us. If you're looking for a new podcast, might I recommend our podcast?
Hi, I'm Gabe Dunn.
And I'm Allison Raskin. We have a weekly show called Just Between Us, where we explore every kind of topic out there.
From mental health to sexuality to animal behavior to science.
We love to interview fascinating people about their various expertise. We also answer listener questions and play a very silly game called Hypotheticals.
You're not going to want to miss it. It's unhinged.
And if you don't want to trust our word for it because it's our show, you should know that the iHeart Podcast Awards nominated us for Best Ensemble for 2023.
That means that we are good at our jobs.
Or we have good chemistry.
Ooh.
So check out Just Between Us every Wednesday.
I have a money question that I'm sure everyone but me can answer here, which is, so Kendall calls him new money. And I guess I wonder, who is, I would have thought that we would consider the Roys new money because he was what are the rules, or how new does money have to be for you to be called new money? Like, what generation?
Well, no, I mean, so this is the thing, right? So the old money would definitely consider the Kendall to be new money, right? All you need to do is look at Kendall's 40th birthday party to see that Kendall is new money. But by Kendall standards, Matsson is new money. And I do actually want to ask Bob and Shari about his jacket. Like, who chose that? Tell me, how that came about.
That jacket is a character in and of itself. It came from the wardrobe department on this show is incredible. Michelle Matlin is the head of the department, and with Alex they picked it out, and then they send us pictures, and I was like, I love this. This is so inappropriate, so Euro, so like Eurovision, like everything about it was just, I thought, perfect.
But yeah, to answer Taffy's question, basically there is a distinction between an actual profitable business that is large and worth billions of dollars versus something that has been spun up very quickly. And, we keep on talking on this podcast about whether Matsson is Daniel Ek, who's the only, Swedish billionaire that anyone can think of. But something like that, who came up very quickly. This is why the kids pivot so quickly from the 100 to Pierce, right? It's because the 100 is very new and kind of fake and doesn't feel real, whereas Pierce has at least been around long enough that they can feel that it's real. And Waystar definitely has been around long enough that they can feel that it's real. Waystar, of course, predating Royko, right? That even if Logan was a self-made man, what he did was, at some point, he merged Royko into Waystar. Waystar has a century of IP behind it. And
wait, what's the real life corollary to Waystar?
It's something like Disney.
Okay.
I mean, smaller than Disney probably, but not, but something along those lines. Maybe, Universal Pictures.
Right. That seems right.
And the other sort of real life parallel, which I had to mention in this episode, was Wirecard, right? Because there's something about European tech companies that is highly suspicious, and the biggest and most glamorous European tech company was this German company called Wirecard. And what it turned out to be doing was massively exaggerating its revenues in Asia, which is exactly what Gojo is doing. And when that came out, when the Financial Times revealed that the Asian revenues were fake, basically Wirecard went to zero. This is like, you can see when Shiv and Kendall are, worrying about this, and you can see even when Mattson is like stuttering when he's confronted about this, that they all understand this is a huge like existential problem for Gojo. This isn't, this is much bigger than the rapes on the cruises. This will actually destroy the company, or could. It has that potential to.
Unless there turns out to be two Indias.
Right. Because what he wants to do is the classic AOL trade, right? Which is like, we use our inflated valuation to buy Time Warner, which is an actual real company. And then even if the value of AOL goes to zero, at least we still own Time Warner, and that's worth something.
Yes, I think that's accurate.
But now by the end of this episode, you have Kendall trying to, what does he try to do? Flip the Viking? He wants to now buy Gojo.
He wants to go reverse Viking.
He wants to go reverse Viking.
Yeah.
He uses a sports metaphor, which surprises me because Kendall does not strike me as a sports metaphor kind of person. But he says, what if we run it all the way back?
Yeah, Kendall wants to run it back. Right. I didn't know that was a sports thing.
It's so interesting the way they immediately want to run it back. And it's so like, I guess I come from this space of like, imagine just selling this company. Like, I know that this is a stupid romantic idea that ignores the trauma that they have, that their basic identity, but like, I don't know. Why don't you just sell this company and go be a rich person doing whatever you want? You could even go to the first world as opposed to second world New York.
The description of New York as second world, I mean, yes.
Legoland, I mean, it's fair.
New York is a deeply dysfunctional city on many levels, and I think you need to be not American to realize how sort of second world it is.
No, my friend Rayhan and I went to Sweden a few years ago, and it was pretty like, I don't know, like, this seems pretty nice. It had a lot of socialist ideals, but nobody was allowed to email anybody after 5 p.m. or something. Like, you're not allowed to
like by law?
Email an associate after.
Yeah, it makes too much noise. It'll keep people up at night.
But it was also like a very like well run. I mean, this is a mess. I'm looking outside my window to say this is a mess right now.
But I love how that insult from Mattson as a New Yorker, how that deeply offended Kendall, like more than, making him go to Norway when his father had just died. Maybe not more than, but equally. That insulting his city and calling it second world was such a blow.
And that deeply awkward fight, that whole scene. I mean, I have to say I love that scene because it's like in filmed entertainment, movies and TVs, often the fights become incredibly choreographed and especially in Succession, everyone's incredibly loquacious and has exactly the right words. There's no let's read Descalier in Succession, right? Everyone says exactly the right thing at exactly the right time. But this fight was awkward, and they didn't quite know if they were fighting or what they were fighting over. And it ends with this bizarre kind of hug, and everyone's just kind of looking at them befuddled. And that's so real, you know?
I actually think that it's the opposite. They all, like, especially Roman and especially, like, Logan, had really dumb things to say with this amazing confidence. Like Logan would say these crazy things like let's see who's gonna lie down in dirt with the birds, as if it were a time-honored thing that everybody knows to say. And the way they would say it, it was magnificent. Like the confidence with which, and Kendall, to me, is always saying this, like, sputtering thing that because of his position, he's just allowed to say. I love it. The rich, man.
The rich. But Elizabeth, I need to ask you about the politics of this show. It has finally become clear that Connor is running as, like, a third-party candidate in this presidential election, and that he's doing that, like, weird spoiler thing, and that
he's exploding in Alaska, though.
He's exploding in Alaska, and that Minkin,
and he cares deeply about recycling, which I think is an interesting. It's his big issue.
Surprising.
Yeah, is like, you know, reckons that he's taking more Republican votes than Democratic votes, and that if Connor drops out, then maybe that will help Minkin, whose campaign is looking weak. Walk me through the sort of realities of this, and how, you know, is there any actual world where a third-party candidate would do a deal with one of the other two parties and drop out in return for, like, an ambassadorship somewhere?
Yeah, I don't think it would happen the night before the election, though. And it is great that, you know, they initially offer Connor Mogadishu, and he says it's too car bomby. He asks for North Korea, and you know, Roman says, "Khan, they're not going to put you anywhere with nukes," and Khan says, "Well, that's insulting. I don't want to go anywhere that doesn't have nukes." And I could see, you know, there have been candidates, especially for libertarian candidates, because they're just never, ever viable. And they do tend to take votes away from Republicans far more than the Democrats. If there was, like, a slim margin in there, it would make sense to get Connor to drop out. But I don't think it would happen on that timeline.
Remember Ben Carson? He ran for president in 2016, you know, was kind of a weird libertarian. He was a brain surgeon, but everything he said seemed incoherent.
Yes.
And Trump...
With his eyes closed.
Yeah, with his eyes closed, yes. And you were like, I hope you're opening them for surgery, dude. But Trump made him HUD secretary, Housing and Urban Development, which was also
disastrous.
Puzzling.
Right, but like, we often see this, right? So often, you know, Pete Buttigieg gets a cabinet position. Like the right, I mean, you know, Kamala Harris becomes vice president. The rival presidential candidates within the party get little knickknacks and gewgaws.
Yes.
But this is different because it's a third party candidate.
They're also offering him terrible things. It's not like they're offering him. It's like it shows you how much
ambassador to Slovenia. You're like, no, I don't think I want.
And Oman. They're not really giving him a big carrot to jump to leave. It's in fact their offers are so bad he says no.
The scene where he was trying to convince Willa to go to Muscat. It really went on for a long time before we cut it.
It's really funny.
It was so fantastic. There were so many great lines.
You can park anywhere. You can drive on the sidewalk if you want.
Yeah, they just kept coming up with all these, you know,
There's some line
sales
about
points.
like she could have theater. She could put on her plays, and she's like, "Are there?
There's
critics?
no theater there."
No, she has it. Are there critics?
I love that part because of the sort of Connor always gets the double insult, which is like, it's not just we want you to drop out because you're clearly not viable, but also we can't even offer you anywhere in Europe other than, you know, we can't offer you what you want. What does he say about marching through the Balkans
Berlin
until
by
he's
Christmas?
conquered? Was that Hitler's path? Like what path was that? Was that a reference to some?
Was that like Hannibal going over the Alps?
It might be. He loves Napoleon, so maybe it's some.
It might be a Napoleon.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Another ad break, but when we're back, the best lines from episode 7. So let's talk about favorite lines. Taffy.
Oh my God. I don't want to be being first. I have 2 that I'm between, but.
Well, we can start with someone else if you want.
No, if Taffy start, because Felix will step on
and
you,
then
he'll say
I'll
a bunch.
scream out if someone else takes the second, just to say I agree. They want us to go full. We're coming to give your guns hormone therapy. That
all your guns are going to be ladies.
Guns are going to be ladies.
We're coming to give your guns hormone therapy was the best distillation of the Tucker Carlson news cycle that I had ever seen in one line.
And I love how this is very, 2023 Republican Party rather than say, when did season 1 come out? Like that would not have been a line in season 1 because that's not where politics was back then. Bob, do you have a favorite line from this one?
Well, I love when Mattson says, so don't say people are data and stick my dick in the guac. When she's telling him how to behave at the party. That always makes me laugh.
A tiny bit of self-awareness there from Lucas Mattson. Yeah. Shari?
Well, this is a more emotional line, but I think when Tom says, and I think you are maybe not a good person to have children. I find that heartbreaking.
What was her reaction? Her reaction was devastating.
Her reaction was, that's not a very nice thing to say, which is such an understatement for what they
do. I think the beauty of that scene is like, I think Taffy, you were saying it's like, it's so overt. They don't speak that way in Succession. So that whole scene is kind of, there's no subtext. It's actually like, she says, I don't like you. I don't care about you. And that to me, like hearing Shiv say that instead of her usual, like, I love you, but I don't love you. It's like, it's that whole, I think that whole scene is kind of really masterfully written because we know these people so well and they don't talk like that.
And also like to bring it back to the sort of divorciness of it, that the last stage of any relationship is first not caring who sees you fighting, right? They're in front of a glass while fighting. They're having a fight. They're not having like a closed lip fight. They're on a patio in front of everybody in their apartment.
By the way, we had a cutaway to people looking at them that they took out because it was probably too obvious for them.
And then the other thing about that is just that you finally just say everything instead of hinting around it anymore. So I feel like I saw the hallmarks of this is it.
Also, I love that line in particular because if you go back to last season, when that very devastating scene when Shiv goes out to lunch or dinner and she sits and talks with her mother, who's like Caroline, who's like the cruel and basically says everything. There's no subtext. She basically tells her, she says, it's a good thing you didn't have children. I don't think, she makes the assumption that she's not going to have children. And she's like, I don't think you would be very good at being a mother. Better said than.
Yeah,
the thing about Caroline and Tom is that they're right about that. I don't think Shiv, we know that the Roys are bad parents.
Yeah.
I don't think Shiv would be any different. But, Emily's like, oh, couldn't you know?
She played it really well. That scene was beautifully done. The way when she says that's not a very nice thing to say, and you could see she's like holding back tears. She's often holding back tears when she's fighting. She's just so brilliant.
She's so brilliant. And they were so amazing in that scene. And just to tell you a little something about it, that scene was so intense that we shot so much of this in real time. Like it was almost like a real-time party in a lot of ways that we were shooting because people had to be in the same spot. We told Tom, everybody was so like drained. We told Tom Matthew, who's like the most amazing person and actor, to stand out on the terrace, and it was cold and chilly and rainy, and not come in. And we sort of were setting up another shot and left him out there. Like, forgot to bring him in. Finally, he's like, hello. We're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
So that's why he's yelling. He's just really pissed off that he got stuck out there.
We just got so caught up in it. It was so emotional that we were like Shiv. We were like, stay out there.
I would say I love how tired he is in this episode. And I just love how like bleary he is, so that when he sits down to fire everyone, he's like, sometimes this makes me cry a little bit, which when my reaction to being tired is to cry a lot. Like, I just start crying a lot, and I just accept that about myself. And I felt like the tiredness just came through. And there's an excuse made for it, like, you're not letting me sleep, we're having sex all the time. But it feels like there's something else going on with him. Maybe it's also the election. Maybe it's also worried about his job, that he seems really tired in this. He's like doing a good job of that.
There is something incredibly universal about that tiny little mini fight they have, where he's like, I'm really tired, I'm going to bed. And she's like, can you just stay up for another 45 minutes? And he's like, no, I can't. And I'm like, how many of us have not, we've all had that fight, right?
Right.
And of course, the last shot is him not being able to sleep.
So the last shot, I definitely want to ask you about that last shot. But Elizabeth, do you have a favorite line?
I enjoyed Matsson's discomfort when he was sort of explaining their numbers problem, where he says, well, maybe we discovered a metrics error that overestimated our subs in India. And then he hesitates and he says, like if there were 2 Indias, it would make sense.
And Shiv is, and he's like, you can fix that, right? She's like, yeah, I'll just build another India. He's like, yeah, you go, girl. You build another India for me. I like that attitude. It's like, no, that's not what I meant, Lucas. I think my favorite line is Tom. Don't say it's biodynamic and don't say it's German.
Oh my God.
Wait, what's Emily's?
Oh, my favorite line was written by Matsson ostensibly, but delivered by Shiv. She's reading a text from him, and she says why he doesn't want to come to the party. He doesn't want to swim around my dad's bullshit, pre-election, brain dead, AOL era, legacy magazine, or legacy media, putrid, stuffed mushroom, fuckfest.
Can I say, just director-wise, I love that transition from her at Trump Tower texting into his receiving the text. I thought that was very elegantly done.
We need to just finish, I think, with whatever foreshadowing or implications
yeah, guys, how's it gonna end?
the final shot of Tom lying awake, thinking. Roughly from episode 3 onwards, there's been this question of, like, is there a way for Tom to sort of wind up weirdly winning this whole succession battle? Like, is this final shot like Tom sort of coming to terms with the fact that, like, that fight totally killed his marriage with Siobhan, and that now he needs to come up, without Logan to protect him, he needs to come up with some plan of his own?
We also did an act of self-sabotage by telling everyone to get the fuck out of his house, and they're the most important people in America, right? And he's done a lot of damage to himself that night. But, it's an interesting question. We don't know the answer, but I will give you one tidbit, is that in our cut, we had the show ending with Shiv in her bedroom, and it was reversed in the final. So it must mean something that I don't know, but I'm curious to see where we go from here.
How does this work? So you have a cut, you end with Shiv, you have a cutaway to the party guests who are watching the fight from inside the penthouse, and then it goes to, like, Jesse, and he like makes tweaks and takes things out and puts things in, and
usually improves it dramatically.
I mean, it's very, very, very difficult to know. Sometimes things are in the script that are setting up things that we don't know what's coming. So we don't. Right. It's hard to edit without. So we want to give them something that structurally is sound and really makes because it's a lot, right? So really makes the episode feel like it's got a trajectory and stuff. But some of the specific lines and things, it's hard for us to know how important they are or how much we should reduce them. And that we really need Jesse to weigh in because he's the one who really knows, where it's going and what we're setting up. I mean, when they first started talking about Gojo in another episode we directed in season 3, I was like, what? Why are we talking about Gojo so much? Where is it? I didn't know, so I really whittled it down. And they brought it all back because I didn't realize how important a role it was going to play. I mean, that's the thing with this show.
They have the big picture.
I mean, they must have known everything to the end. Like, I remember when we were talking at first about, like, maybe this is going to be the last season while Jesse was talking about it before that New Yorker article came out. And it doesn't seem like maybe it was going to be the last season. Like, it seems like every little thing was planned for 4 seasons and everyone knew what would happen. But
that's not how television works.
No, but it is. Like, for an HBO show, right? Like,
but
it's possible.
You think in like season 1 they had it planned for 4 seasons?
I think Jesse had an idea of where it would end. I don't think he knew for sure, and I also don't think he knew. I remember him saying, several years ago when we started working on the show, I remember him saying, I see this as being 4 or 5 episodes, not more than that. So seasons. I think seasons, not episodes. So I think he always knew that there was just a limit to how much story he could tell. And I think he was open to people convincing him. At least that's what he said in the article. And I think he went in saying, I don't know if we could find another really meaningful season. Maybe we'll do it. But in the end, he decided there wasn't one.
So next episode, Shari, you have, given the Slate Money Succession listeners a little tidbit that we can hold on to, that the next episode is not going to be the funeral. Other than that, we're just going to have to, I guess.
That's all we know.
That's all we know. It's good.
That corpse continues to rot above ground.
Well, we know it's election.
He woke up on the right side of the coffin today.
Jewish. We are I'm like,
I know. It's
get
funny.
it in the ground.
Assuming to me.
As a Jew, I had a conversation with the writers about it. I'm like, we bury our dead immediately. And, they were like, well, and it's true. They're like, he is such an international figure that people want to come from other countries and putting it together is a big job.
It's true. Whenever I hear of like someone lying in state, I'm like, they're not buried yet. Like, I'm always horrified.
Logan,
I guess they're not Jewish, so I guess the Roys aren't Jewish. Is that what we're to take away from this episode?
Not a lot of Jews in Dundee, I can tell you.
Who's going to win the election? How about that? Who's going to win the election?
Mencken.
Not going to let you know. Don't know for sure. And
don't know for sure, but I feel
bet
like
it's Mencken because he was the most interesting one to watch.
There was foreshadowing here, right? In that, like, the polling is bad, and then it turns out that the internal polling is actually worse.
But do the polls? I mean, they've led us astray before, right?
Polls.
The polls.
The polls lead us, but also, like, if we're going to be at all realistic about this, especially if the election is close, which it looks like it is, we're not going to know who won the election.
Oh yeah. Oh no. Right.
How many episodes are there this season?
There's 3 more to go.
Who did they send the kettle corn to?
I don't know.
Who gets the kettle corn? I think they would have at least told us that.
Taffy, thank you for bringing your friends. Bob and Shari, thanks so much for coming on. It's been amazing. And yeah, thanks to Patrick for editing together what is undoubtedly the hardest episode of Slate Money Succession to edit, but nothing like editing an
Mr.
episode
Snippy
of Succession.
Snip.
Mr. Snippy Snip. Thank you,
Greg would call you.
Do the
Patrick
listeners
Ford,
know
Mr.
that this
Snippy Snip.
episode was 200 pages long before it got whittled down to whatever it is? This episode of Slate, I mean.
Exactly.
The podcast, I mean.
Yeah, but
not-
this entire podcast is very scripted.
Yeah.
Very scripted. And so, yeah, we will be back on Saturday with the regular Slate Money, and then next Monday with episode 8.
What's up, guys? I am Ashley Gavin, and I am your father.
I'm Elena Joy. I am mommy.
And I'm Mac Injami, your hot teenage brother.
Baby. Mac is baby.
We are your chosen family, because you don't have a gay family, and you need a gay family.
Every week, we bring a topic to the family dinner table, from gender dysphoria to monogamy to how to figure out if someone is into you.
Listen to Chosen Family every Wednesday on your favorite podcast app or watch full episodes on YouTube to get the full family experience. Chosen Family is a part of the Forever Dog Podcast Network.
Just between us.
If you're looking for a new podcast, might I recommend our podcast?
Hi, I'm Gabe Dunn.
And I'm Allison Raskin. We have a weekly show called Just Between Us, where we explore every kind of topic out there.
From mental health to sexuality to animal behavior to science.
We love to interview fascinating people about their various expertise. We also answer listener questions and play a very silly game called Hypotheticals.
You're not going to want to miss it. It's unhinged.
And if you don't want to trust our word for it because it's our show, you should know that the iHeart Podcast Awards nominated us for Best Ensemble for 2023.
That means that we are good at our jobs.
Or we have good chemistry.
Ooh.
So check out Just Between Us every Wednesday.